Good evening, fans of Free Enterprise, and welcome to our tonight's bracket match. I am Paka Shinobi, and I am joined by Rex Raul. Rex, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing well. Looking forward to another exciting bracket race.
And they have certainly been exciting so far. The Bump and Flags has given us a lot of new things to go and really enjoy. What's been some of your favorite things to see so far in these bracket flags?
I think just like the different routing that people choose for their looting and shopping is just like right off the bat is often starkly different than what we saw in the Swiss rounds. I think we even saw somebody go into a chocobo forest for a loot check. So we're seeing a lot of different things based on these different weighted chests that people can open. And with that selling for a quarter price, that means we're seeing even more looting than we were before. So it's very different than it was in the Swiss round, and I love that.
Agreed. Those T-Pro, S-Pro shops, T-Pro chest, S-Pro shops have been pretty amazing. I've been pretty fond of seeing just 7 distinct characters because with no dupes, you're going to go and be struggling to fill out your team for some time. Some seeds you've been really limping along with carrying Eddie and really need to lean on him for a bit.
Oh yeah, that's also something that the runners really have to think about, like dismissing a character, especially since you can't retrieve them again in Mysidia. Sometimes you're like, I just don't want to deal with this character now, but I'll be able to use them as an agility anchor later. No, if you ditch a character, they're gone. You can't get them back. So you really have to be very forward thinking on which characters you want to actually keep in your party. And I think that's another thing that's been fascinating about these brackets.
Yeah, it's definitely. I'd love to go and see all the different ways the runners have to adapt to what parties they're stuck with, no fishing for characters and hope for something better, because you'll get 2 replacements, but otherwise you're stuck with what you get, and sometimes you get is sometimes a bit of hot garbage.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And we've got a couple of racers. We've got old hat Dustygriff, who's been a key figure in the community for a long time, and a relatively new runner in Beernerd1, who's been very strong in the races. And we are off, and looks like our Sid is greeted by Dark Knight Cecil. We get a defense sword right off the bat, and Golbez is guarding Baron Castle.
Oh, that's a place you don't want to go for a while, and one place you do want to go sometime soon, I think, is to Ordeals to get that Cecil able to use that very nice and powerful defense sword.
Yeah, that's one of the, other than like the legendary holy swords, the defense sword is right up there with the best things you can get. And if you find Kane, that is arguably his best weapon, other than maybe Avenger. I mean, depending on the fight, that is. Now we're going to get a peek at our objectives for this race.
Well, you have extra incentive to go for deals, as I was saying, because you really need to go and get there. And rescue the hostage on Hobbs is definitely important because that's a character check. Might not actually join your party, but you still get them. And you need to find and fight the Fabul Gauntlet. That is going to be fun.
Yeah, so I'm very vocal in the fact that the Alt Gauntlet is my favorite flag in this version 4 of Free Enterprise. So having it be required in this race is very exciting to me. A lot of what we're seeing is not going to be too difficult, especially rescuing the hostage on Mount Hobbs. That's often an early thing for our runners to do anyways, especially because you want to get a peek at what character is up there. And completing Mount Ordeals is something that you're going to want to do since you've got Cecil in there anyways. So those are not going to be things that the runners are upset about. The boss hunts and the getting that Earth Crystal to complete Zot, those are going to be the real objectives of this race.
Oh yeah, those are definitely going to be the hard ones to get through because there are 34 locations bosses can be, and you need to find 2 of them in any of those 34. Let's see where they go and end up.
Looks like Beernerd is already jumping into Antlion Cave. Probably going to be giving us our first boss check unless Dusty decides to head up to Mount Hobbs and check that real fast here. We might see, I think Dusty did a peek inside the watery pass there for the boss. Did not find anything that he was interested in. But it looks like he's heading down to check the boss over in Misty Cave. We will see if that is either the Bahamut or the Fabul Gauntlet or Demist. Those are all what we're kind of looking for in that. And just Kane Azo, and Kane Azo, it's going to be, the runners are going to be happy to not have to deal with them at a difficult spot.
No turtle soup today because, yeah, that's a spot that doesn't give enough experience to be worth killing and doesn't have a boss that's attached to it that's worth really having. So Dusty going and looting a bit, finding dancing daggers in the weapon shop and getting an ice claw on the bushes, which could be pretty helpful if we find a Yang or an Edge.
So Baka, if you're giving this starting duo of Sid and Dark Knight Cecil, are there any kind of equipment that you're looking for to better your party early?
I would love to find something like an Ogre Axe or an Earth Hammer for Sid to give him a good kick to damage. He's got something pretty nice, but you really want to go and do better than, say, 200 damage a swing, but it doesn't matter against that Water Hag we see on Beernerd's screen, where it's just you show up and you hit him 3 times, he's done.
Yeah, damage output does not matter against the Water Hag, just whether or not you can hit him. So any characters who have really low hit percents are going to be rough there. Dusty is heading into Baron Castle. We're going to see what's in that. We see Rosa and a Lunar Sparkle there. I think we saw that on Beernerd's screen a little bit earlier, but we didn't mention it. So if we want a decent endgame white mage, Rosa is available in that Baron Inn. That's going to be a character that the runners are probably going to want.
Yeah, and with that complete Zot requirement, that's certainly helpful. And we get Magma Key right off the bat from Water Hag. That's definitely a bit of an easy start.
Yeah, we've got a really open seed. But one thing that I think is going to loom in the back of their heads until they find both of our boss hunts, Bahamut and the Alt Gauntlet, is that there are those 2 bosses that are along the hook route that are now that we've got an early Magma start, those are going to be 2 of the most out of the way bosses in the whole of the game. And so that's just something that's got to be in the back of the minds of the runners.
Oh yeah, finding that hook is going to be a temptation of, do I check this to see if I can go and get find one of the characters or one of the bosses I need, or I go somewhere else where it's giving me key items and maybe opening up more boss spots.
While Beernerd is doing a little bit more shopping, Dusty is going to go after that achievement or accomplishment objective. That's the one, not achievement, not accomplishment. Objective number 1, completing, number 4, rescue the hound. We've got 2 mountains in our objectives, so I'm reading the wrong one. Number 4, the hostage on Mount Hobbs, and we're going to see who that is. We have Old Man Tella.
Well, that's certainly a decent addition to the party. You go and have nothing too great so far, but you do go and get his Blink spell, which can be very helpful in some of these spots that hit hard with physicals. And after ordeals, guess who also gets powered up? That's right, it's the Old Man.
As if there wasn't enough incentive for completing this now. Once you got Tella, you really want to get Tella and Cecil. You definitely want to complete ordeals.
Yeah, though Sid is going to have to carry these characters on his back for a while because they're currently not pulling out much of anything. Cecil not even attacking because if you attack these guards, they go and do counter spells, which if your Sid stops going and being able to do damage, then you're in really bad shape.
Yeah, you don't want a size spell to hit Sid here. One option that Dusty could have taken, and it looked like he might have been considering it. He had a change staff in his inventory. If you use that as an item in battle, it does cast the Piggy spell, and those guards are susceptible to Piggy. But he had other methods to get rid of it reasonably enough. He checks the back of Mount Hobbs, which you don't always see, and is rewarded with a black sword, which is Dark Knight Cecil's best weapon.
That sword is a great find because it gives +5 to Cecil's strength, agility, vitality, and wisdom stats. One of them is less useful than the other, but it also goes and has a chance of instantly killing any enemy without the boss bit, where if we find that Alt Gauntlet somewhere early in that seed, that Black Sword can make some real good work because they will not go and count as a boss. They're not going to go be defended by the boss bit, and a lot of enemies, especially early game, are not immune to instant death.
Looks like Beernerd's doing a pretty thorough looting of Dwarf Castle here. And then going into the shops, finds cabins there. And cabins are an item that you're not always going to be seeing in these flag sets. Sometimes you're going to be starved for that sort of healing in dungeons, and that's got to be nice to see, especially so early in the seed.
Oh yeah, those cabins are the big difference between a very comfortable lunar subterranean campout and a very scary, I have 12 MP, I can go and use that to cast Cure 1 3 more times.
Yeah.
Do I really need to cast this Cure 1?
Also finds a bandana back there, and with a couple of physical fighters in the party, even though Dark Knight Cecil can't use it right now, he will later. Bandanas are a nice item to find.
Yep, that strength boosting gear always goes and gives a bit of an edge. Sid doesn't have the best stats. He starts at level 20, which makes him pretty strong, and we do see a very nice check from Beernerd, a very fashionable check if I do say so.
Yeah, moving up from being a farmer in the vanilla game to a fashion model here. Yeah, the dwarf is doing some good things. And speaking of good things, the weapon shop in Tomra also has both a dwarf axe and an ogre axe. A couple of really useful items, especially for Sid.
Yeah, that dwarf axe. The dwarf axe is great because it's got the long range, the back row bet, which gives the long range property and lets attackers do full damage from the back row, which Cecil can also make use of a cursed ring. That is an extraordinarily helpful pickup. That gives minus 15 to all stats. Rex, why would you want to take take away 15 points from all your stats?
Well, there's a couple of reasons to use the cursed ring. The main thing is, even though it affects your other stats, the one that we're really concerned with is that agility stat. The way Final Fantasy IV builds its active time battles is around in the vanilla game Cecil, but in this version that we're seeing, whatever character is in the middle slot, and whatever their agility is, all of your characters and the enemies' agility is going to be based around that. The lower that is, usually the slower the enemies are. So if you've got somebody with a really low agility, maybe even lower with that cursed ring, you can make your team way much faster in comparison. The other thing is it's got an unusual, or not as often used, ability of if you've got a resistance against a elemental attack and you've got the curse string on, it changes that into an absorption. So if you play your cards right, if you know that a boss is going to be using a certain elemental attack, you can use that to your advantage as well.
Definitely a little helpful tidbit, and something that we find is Beernerd is going through the Path to Fame Arch, looting chests. He found the trap chest in the second floor and is now free to go and loot all the other ones. This is something that's very helpful because on T Pro, these chests, especially let me rephrase this, chests that are in the same area as trap chests tend to have a higher quality loot than other chests. Like we see an Aegis shield, a Gaia drum, and a black belt in 3 chests next to each other, which is definitely something Beernerd is going to enjoy seeing.
And being able to know, since that there's only the one trapped chest in the Fame Arch cave there, knowing where it is and being able to avoid it just means you don't need to worry about it. Like the Sylph Cave is way different because there's just so many trapped chests in there. Being able to, or just trying to scout out all of the chests and loot everything in there is just not going to be very time effective most of the time. But in the Fame Arch cave, you're going to be rewarded.
Yeah, and conversely, Dusty is just not saving, just going straight down, ignoring all the chests here, figuring he's going to go and loot whatever he wants elsewhere. And Beernerd finding Odin and the dolls, I think, down there?
Yeah, it looked like the Calabrina dolls in the Leviathan spot and Odin in the Ashura spot. Neither of them are going to be able to be dealt with this party right now, but knowing what's out there is good information.
Yeah, that makes Thunderclaw a very more desirable item, along with, if you find Edward, you might keep Edward, because Edward can go and do things with his high ability that other characters cannot.
Yeah, Edward wasn't really designed to be available for the Odin fight, so we'll see if that comes into play, but there's definitely some really sneaky things that he can do that are really fun. And it looks like we can... Yeah, the pigtail is the item in the vanilla rat tail chest, so just another tail, different color. But we're not going to get an adamant armor out of it because we have no adamants in this brackets. But you do get a top tier item. So we'll see if we get the hook, what that will be, because I'm sure that'll be checked at that time.
Yeah, I imagine our runners would be tickled pink to go and get a crystal sword, though I imagine they'd be a bit put off they were chasing their tail only to get a glass hat.
Yeah, especially if it's really late in the game and like it's right before Zeramus, because the glass hat does not do anything against the magical attacks that Zeramus has for you.
Yeah, Zeromus being all magic definitely doesn't help, and the glass hat is it is definitely something that's good to have early though, because it does give extraordinary physical defense, which can really go and, despite the name, really save your bacon and keep you well protected.
It's really good for strategies like a Cecil back row cover strategy. Just keeping Cecil as safe as possible in the back row, taking very little damage while protecting your other characters. Something like that is what the glass hat is, where that glass hat really shines.
Agreed. And Dusty also checking the Tamara armor shop and is finding the curse rings for sale there and is picking one up himself. Still going and trying to sell them because another flag we turned on for the Fabul Gauntlet is in bracket rounds. Things instead of selling for half price, sell for a quarter price because we decided we were being too generous.
Well, if we're going to have these T-Pro looting in it, and so that there's going to be people doing checks like this Feymarch check that we saw from Beernerd, might as well kind of incentivize to loot a little bit more by making it so that the rewards you get aren't going to be as monetary. The money isn't going to be as flowing.
Oh yeah, you're definitely a bit more cash starved here. And Dusty going and following up to go and speak with the Sylphs. I believe Beernerd also spoke with the Sylphs, but is opting to go and clear Mount Hobbs first after healing up. We find the Baron Guards there, getting through without too much difficulty, and that leaves our runners pretty even on checks. Beernerd's a little bit ahead because he's had a bit more money, though Dusty has knowledge of what bosses are not going to be around in the form of the Mylon and the Kanizo at the Watery Pass and the Mist Cave.
And this checking of the Sylph Cave early avoids one trip to Fabul throughout the course of the run. This is something that's been seen to be pretty common with the runners when there's an early magma key access like this. If there isn't that early magma key, then it's kind of, some runners still like to do Fabul early for that little bit of experience push right away and an easier boss, and some tend to put it off until later. So, but with that early magma key, not a surprise that neither of the runners did Fabul before going underground.
Yeah, and runners converging on the same point, back to where just coming back together, high-fiving in Fabul, getting ready to go. Dusty's slightly ahead and starting the fight, but we're still at the start of the seed. There's still so much to do.
Right, we haven't found either of our boss hunts yet, and I know we haven't checked a ton of places, but there's been a decent smattering that we've seen so far. Even if we haven't entered the battle, like checking those Feymarch bosses, and we still haven't seen it. And it looks like we're not seeing it yet either, because we see Dark Knight Cecil as the boss here in Fabul.
Seems like Dark Knight Cecil is a bit more than a pale reflection of himself today.
Yeah, he's hitting everybody instead of just himself.
Seems a bit out of character for Cecil, seeing as, well, normally Cecil, when you get him, likes to go and take hits for other people.
Yeah, well, he is a Dark Knight.
And he's a very gone knight now, as doesn't even get to kill the lowest, weakest character on Steam, Dark Knight Cecil.
You see Beernerd here, and we saw it with Dusty. You'll see it a lot with Dusty. It's one of the things he's really good at is getting into the menu while the monsters are talking at the end of a battle to just put your items where you want. That just saves time over the round, because you could do that like in between battles, but this is time that you're just sitting around doing nothing anyways, so you might as well take that time to enter into your menu and just move around your items so that they're more accessible. Put the consumables that you're going to use up towards the top.
And we get the Rat Tail from the King and a Zeus Gauntlet from Sheila 1. That Zeus Gauntlet is an item that, after the 4.0 rebalance some of the treasures, has become a lot more rare and is incredibly helpful with giving plus 10 strength and having a rather unique property of giving bonus defense against giants, which can be very helpful in some situations.
Yeah, there's a grind that is a lot more popular now in the 4.0 with Mac Giants, and having that extra defense with the Zeus Gauntlet is always nice there. But the Zeus Gauntlet is going to be very useful in this party with Sid and Cecil both would like that once Cecil's a paladin.
Agreed. And speaking of once he's a paladin, Dustygriff is very keen on going and or dealing with that situation now.
You've got a lot of really good equipment for Cecil as a paladin. I mean, the heavy armor is just something. There's just so many kinds of it that you're going to just get a bunch of it throughout shops. That's going to be pretty easy to come by. But seeing that defense sword that we got right off the gate, seeing that Zeus Gauntlet that you just got right now, like now's the time. You want to get him up to speed, get all that equipment on him. So he's going to be a real powerhouse once he transforms.
Oh yeah, Cecil is definitely going to be able to carry the seed pretty strongly with this, but Sid is going to be able to go and carry for ordeals, as that 10 strength is going to be pretty big for him. Every 8 strength gives the character an extra attack multiplier, which can be very helpful, and we find the Kaipo guards here, who's a free fight, and Dustygriff has Black Sword. The Black Sword works on these guys, so Dusty instead choosing to use the Big Mom, which is probably faster because it's going to go and have fewer swoon procs, and the Officer Soldier is just going to go and run away after the minions are dead.
And this fight isn't worth a ton of experience. It's not like you're missing out on a whole lot by missing out on the Officer here, but and especially since like Tella's experience doesn't really matter. Sid's already at a high level, and Cecil's experience is going to reset once he turns into a paladin, so missing out on an experience isn't really much of a consideration in any case, considering this party.
One thing to consider, though, is I don't believe either runner has gone and back row glitched their Sid, so Sid is not going to be doing full damage to that CPU core for a while.
No, we remember we saw Beernerd dip into the shop in Tomra and saw that dwarf axe. I'm not sure if Dusty went in. He saw the armor shop, but I don't know if he went into the weapon shop. But neither of them ponied up the cash because that dwarf axe is expensive. But yeah, it would have been useful for this fight, that's for sure.
Or having a bow and arrow for Sid, because you can go and back row glitch Sid with a bow and arrow, which Dusty still does have a bow and arrow and is switching to an archer bow and poison arrows and is going to take, I believe, 1 shot, and then we'll see him switch back. The reason is, so the way the back row glitch works is once you equip a long range weapon, it's set forever. If you equip it in combat, you have to take an action because the game doesn't update the character's stats until after you go and take an action. And Dusty's deciding, I think this bow and arrow is doing better damage than a hammer anyway, so we're going to stick with that.
If you've got a decent enough bow, those poison arrows are kind of in the second tier of strength as far as how good they are. So yeah, that might be better, especially if you're still just rocking that wooden hammer.
Agreed. They are. I've spent a bit too much time looking over arrows. The strength of arrows goes from strongest to well, I stopped caring. Artemis arrows, samurai arrows, charm arrows, mute arrows, and then poison arrows. So they're the 5th strongest, it seems. Unless I've missed a different type of arrow. Very definitely not something to go and pass up on. Arrows are incredibly helpful in these sets, as bows are long range, they do good damage, and Sid is in the middle slot, so he's getting bonus accuracy and is able to go and hit better than usual.
I usually consider like the elemental arrows to be in the lower tier unless you're hitting that elemental weakness, and then that middle tier of the darkness arrows through the charm arrows, and then the upper tier of the arty arrows and stuff like that. So but in this early part of the game, those poison arrows are pretty good.
Yeah, and something that's rather fascinating is you can hit an 8 times multiplier with white arrows because they are both holy damage and do racial damage to undead and spirits. And speaking of doing extra damage, here's Wyvern here to go and do a lot of extra damage to our face with a... And, well, guess he's a little slow today because goodbye that Wyvern. Hello, Starville and Cecil.
Yeah, that's an annoying spot to find Wyvern because it's one of the few fights that can actually really threaten a party in this location. This is usually a free spot. Luckily, the setup is right. Dusty able to get that Star Veil up, no problem there. We also see the hook as the item for completing Mount Ordeals, and with both tails in the inventory, we're going to probably be seeing a trip to the Adamant Grotto, and we might see a trip down to Evelyn Cave for the character, the shop, and the seeing of what the boss is in the Rubicante spot checks.
I definitely agree with all those points. I think we're going to go and see a fair amount of hook action going on as we're going to get drawn into checking these tails, one of which is a key item. We do need to find that Earth Crystal, and we do need to hunt down 2 bosses, which there are 2 boss spots in the Upper Babel. You can definitely go and maybe find both of them there, or at least maybe find one of them.
So now we've got a fully powered Tella, which means that once we get the Darkness Crystal, we do have open to the runners the D-Machine grind, which is one of the more preferred grinds in this flag set, especially with Sirens like only being able to be found possibly in Kokol's shop. The grinds that we've seen throughout a lot of the other events that we've had for Free Enterprise usually revolved around those Sirens. That's just not going to be in the cards. This D-Machine grind, which is what the vanilla game uses, is something that has been very popular in this. And we've got Tella, but we need to find that Darkness Crystal in order to get that going.
And we find a Luca key instead, which you can do a bit of grinding with that, though it's definitely not preferred because those trap doors will be a little annoying in the fact that they like to kill your characters with their disrupt. You can go and get around that with a little bit of tricks and shenanigans, but without 10 key items, it's also a pretty weak grind as well, which you might want to hold off on until you have either the Darkness Crystal or 10 key items, because if you're trying to go and get to Z levels on doors, you're going to need all the experience you can.
Right. We probably wouldn't see a door grind without 10 key items, and the thing is, the door grind is usually better if you've got Star Veils or the Wall spell available to you. And I don't think with Tella's MP pool, casting Wall all that many times with him is probably not going to be an option. Though we do know that Rosa is available in Beernerd1, but she needs to get to a pretty decent level before she learns Wall anyways. So then you might be stuck using Star Veils, and with the money situation in this game, that's pretty expensive too.
Yeah, there's the option to try and find some Ether ones and heal up Tella afterwards, but it's definitely not the optimal situation to go for, I agree. But Dusty just charging through this Evelyn Cave is probably thinking, alright, I want to see who the character and the boss is, and depending on what I see there determines whether or not I reset.
I think as long as it's not a dupe character, he'll take it. We're still at only 3 characters, but we'll see. It is a dupe, and it's the elf, the Dark Elf. So not a boss that we're looking to see, and we have no dupes on, so Dusty is not getting a second Tella for this.
And he's not resetting either, which is interesting because I'm curious as to what Dusty's plans are. Does he want to go and hit up this cave for loot coming from the back front and go that way? Does he want to go and check the boss down there? Because there's another boss we haven't seen, is the boss at the King Queen Evelyn spot. And Dusty is just going straight in.
Oh, this is a neat gamble. Might also be looking for that Mad Ogre chest for experience, like a way to just jumpstart Cecil's experience as well.
True, but without saving anywhere, I think Dusty's planning on just check the boss, see them, see if I need to do them. If it's one of the 3 bosses I care about in Bahamut, Fabul, Gauntlet, or D-Mist, then I'll go and do something here. If not, I'm out. This is out of my mind. I can go and not think about this at all. Speaking of out of mind, Beernerd going and checking the waterfall and finding Mylan Z there. So, good information for him. He knows he never needs to go and do that. Definitely a bit of scouting out right now.
He's not even making a safety save before checking out this boss here, so it looks like this is just like a recon mission here.
Oh my god! Ah! The alt gauntlet is at the King Queen Evelyn spot. Dusty has made the play and found the alt gauntlet, objective number 5.
So now this is a pretty low experience party for this fight at this spot. We'll see. He's gonna try to use what he can out of Tella's magic to make it work. But this is gonna be this is not a gimme fight by any means.
No, this is definitely not something that's going to be free in any definition. And Tesla's going to be going up a lot of levels, but he's still going to be starting at that 600 experience. He is, I don't think Dusty was really expected to actually want to fight something here.
I think he was just ready to see what it is and reset out, and then like, oh, whoa, this is not what I expected. Yeah, we see from Zilt in the chat, might be regretting not saving. Yeah, if he would have made a safety save right outside, then I think he'd be probably feeling a lot better about this situation right now.
Agreed. This is definitely not something that this is all right. So there's multiple things about this that's awful, to be entirely honest. First and foremost, in Upper Babel, you can, if you don't go to the last floor, warp out back floors. You can't go and exit out of Upper Babel, but you can use warp to go and get back to Evelyn Cave and exit out of that. Unless you get to the floor Rubicon's on. Then you can't warp, so you're stuck walking out anyways. Dusty probably figured, there is no way I'm actually going to be needing to stay here, so let's just go and check this and be gone, and then actually needs to stay here, so he now needs to make this fight work with a team that hasn't gone and gotten any levels, is underpowered, and doesn't really have a lot of anything going for it. Dusty, I believe, is going to try and... Yes, he's throwing out a bow and arrow on Cecil mid-fight to go and get the back row glitch on Cecil because he only got it on Sid, and is then going to go and be getting Cecil ready to heal up. And is throwing out weeks with Tella to go and prepare enemies to get them life glitch so that Cecil can go and finish them off, get some more experience, and get better prepared for these later fights.
Meanwhile, Beernerd finds another important boss, finds the D Mist. And so this is going to be I believe the second fight in Beernerd1 is where this D-Mist has been found. So this is going to be a bonus round for Beernerd.
That is definitely good for Beernerd as well, though. I expect Dusty is going to be very inclined to go and grab that Rosa. There is a lot of value in that Beernerd, Darkness Crystal as well. The seed just got very spicy very fast, and I don't know if I can really keep up. The moon allows us to go and check a number of boss spots as well, which means if you want to just go hunting around to see if you can find Bahamut, that's perfectly fine. It also enables you to go to the Giant to do the D-Machine grind that Rax mentioned previously, which could be really important when you have a Cecil and a Rosa and want to get yourself ready to kill Zeromus and or the moon bosses.
Now that basically everything's open for Beernerd, though, the question is he going to make the same gamble that Dusty did to go down here and learn where this alt gauntlet is? I think this is something. This could be a gamble that paid off huge for Dusty. We'll see. I mean, there still is the chance that Beernerd will make this play, but I think it's going to be a lot less likely at this point.
Yeah, Beernerd just got a lot of better options in the form of, quite frankly, literally the entire moon, rather than 2 rather long walks into Evelyn Cave to see one boss, then another long walk through another dungeon to the bottom that you can't exit out of or warp out of to see this. And yeah, here Beernerd comes to Mysidia. He's going to go and launch the big whale. We'll see if he goes to take a whole bunch of experience, grab the character on, if he's just going to check the character on the moon, where he goes. But yeah, this is definitely... This race is pretty wide open right now, and I have no idea where it's going to go.
It looks like Dusty is doing a good job of playing this pretty safe here. I think that's the way to do. This green D summoned by the sorcerer might be the scariest thing that he sees in this.
Yeah, those green dragons look a lot like yellow dragons, except for two critical facts. One, I believe they have more HP, and two, they give less experience.
Yeah, they're worse all around than the yellow Ds. Here comes that nasty thunder attack. Tella is out now. We'll see. The cover from Cecil's going to help with Sid, but
yeah, if we get too many of those thunders, that could be a wipe for Dusty, and this is looking ugly. Looks like the thunder's not doing extraordinary damage, but it's still doing decent amounts of damage. And one...
You go ahead.
I was going to say, one thing that stands out about this alt gauntlet, it's very easy to know the stats of all the bosses. It's really hard to know all the stats of all the encounters you can find in these areas.
Beernerd making you play to the moon, going to be checking the shop and the character at least. The green D now taken down by Dusty. That might have been the last one. There might be one more fight.
I think there's one or there are 5 fights. We started with an egg. Next we had Ogre, Lamia, Black Cat. Then we had 3 balloons. Then we had that collar with 2 blade men and that some of the green dragon. I believe this is the last fight with this egg.
Hopefully Tella has enough MP. Well, like, can't use weak with only 1 MP. Checking for ethers, I think. He's got Psych available, which he could use on Cecil, but I believe Cecil just has the 10 MP right now.
I believe you're right, so I think we're going to have to go and fight this egg.
This egg, yeah. And hey, unsurprisingly, it's a green D.
Do you like disappointment in a shell? Because you get disappointment in a shell here. Meanwhile, Beernerd on the moon, checking who the character is. Let's see who they get, and they get Fasoya. That is a huge pickup for Beernerd. Dusty might know where the gauntlet is, but Beernerd's going to be able to clear through much more of everything with Fasoya.
Well played to Dusty, though, making really good use of what he had in his inventory, what spells he had available to him. Played it safe, which is really what you have to do to have a chance in that situation. Almost certainly was not expecting that, but got through it all, and just really well played by Dusty there.
Yeah, and that is objective number 5 completed for Dusty, defeating the Fabul Gauntlet, which is in a real rabbit hole where, depending on where Bahamut ends up and where Dusty goes, this could be a huge boon for him, as he will... Beernerd does not have a good reason to go to this location anytime soon. Dusty could go and run away with this just based off this one play.
There still is one more boss hunt out there for Dusty, though. That Bahamut is still going to lurk somewhere. It's probably not going to be very difficult to defeat for the parties. I mean, Bahamut is generally one of the easier bosses out there, but depending on where that Bahamut is hiding out, it still could be giving Beernerd some time to find. And it looks like Beernerd is heading right into the Giant of Babel. Looks like wants to do this D-Machine grind, get his party up to speed right now. Remember, Beernerd has also found Rosa added to his party as well. So he's got a Cecil and a Rosa and a Fusia, thinking like, okay, I've got what I need in order to complete this seed.
Yeah, and that I believe his Cecil is not going to go and be much more than level 10 or so, because he only did the Baron in fight, and the second fight in Baron does not give experience. So Cecil and Rosa being level 10, Sid's probably in his 20s, Tella's in his 20s. Let's see the levels here quickly. I couldn't go in. Yeah, Cecil is level 9. Both Cecil and Rosa are going to get slingshot experience. That is going to go and give a huge advantage to them, as they'll get double experience from this one D-Machine fight, which can be pretty helpful.
Speaking of boss locations that don't give experience, one interesting quirk about the Alt Gauntlet is even if it's fought in a spot where you normally don't get experience, like we saw today, you still get the experience for the fight. So Cecil, I'm not even sure if this is something that Dusty would have wanted for Cecil to get these levels like he did, because now it kind of negates the option to slingshot him through something like a D-Machine grind.
Agreed. It's definitely something that's less than helpful, and Hey, fun fact about Berserk, it has an accuracy which can miss because Tella's stats are actually kind of garbage.
Oh yeah, Tella is just the worst. If you really wanted to hit on spells, putting him in the middle, because whatever character's in the middle spot gets an accuracy boost, and that's both for magic and for attacks. So he's a little bit more reliable when he's in the front row.
Yeah, that is definitely an important thing, and I believe we're going to see Beernerd make use of that as Tella is in the center slot in his setup, and there is Dusty getting the Darkness Crystal, and we'll hopefully be checking that Demus to find the item. Well, it was a white spear, but don't want to go leave these checks hanging. So the vanilla Fusoya is definitely going to be a serious boon, and the Beamers have eyes for Rosa, it seems, as it goes and just takes her out in the first 2 shots.
Unfortunately for Beernerd, he doesn't have access to Quake on Fusia quite yet, so can't just take out these Beamers basically with one shot like you often can with Quake. But Beamers only do a percentage-based damage, so you're going to know what you're going to get for the damage throughout this fight.
Agreed, and they're pretty safe, though 10% can still go and whittle you down a bit. And if you're too low when the D machine comes out, the D machine does a 20% fire attack to all enemies, or to all of your party, which is also rather suboptimal.
I believe that was our first Kaipo bed check, and that is another Fusia. So there's a couple ways to get him, but since we've got the Darkness Crystal right now, that's probably the way that even Dusty's going to use.
Yeah, if Dusty doesn't go and check this now, this is definitely going to be disadvantageous for him, but he does, again, have the advantage of knowing where the Fabul Gauntlet is and having gone and defeated it. And Beernerd not getting the correct encounter.
Yeah, that was the wrong fight. That was the Horseman fight, not the D-Machine fight. That's unfortunate. That's going to cost some time in the reset here.
Yeah, there's a step manipulation chart which you can use that will go and tell you how to go and find it. It is pinned in the Free Enterprise Discord. Should you go and wish to go and learn more about this game, thinking it's great and fun, and I want to go know more about it, join us on our Discord. We have not just a lot of people who talk about it, but also a lot of resources pinned in there.
Yeah, tons of resources and friendly conversation abound in the Discord for Free Enterprise. So Beernerd has found another Searcher double beamer fight. Hopefully everything's going to go well, and this is going to be the D-Machine fight that he's looking for.
Yeah, let's hope that he's able to get started on this, because Dusty has launched his big whale. Going back into Mysidia to go and check shops is going to go and see what is for sale here, and finding some Ether 1s, which not buying any. I think that's to tell that Dusty's going back into that shop and buys 10. I think Dusty's thinking of doing his own D-Machine grind.
You've got a Tella that's fully powered. You've got a Darkness Crystal. I think you've got to be thinking D-Machine grind.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to go and ignore that, as getting Rosa up to high levels would be very helpful. Though maybe finding the food will convince Dusty to just maybe try his hand at Moon Bosses, because Fusoya is pretty strong.
I believe he's got at least one more boss with down than Beernerd does, so might be a slightly more powerful Fu as well. I haven't been keeping track to see if maybe he skipped something that Beernerd did, but finds the more potent Ether 2s in this shop.
Definitely going to take out a fair amount of that money, and Dusty is... I imagine Dusty's going to be a bit less inclined to go and keep those summons when he finds the Fusoya in that on that lunar dais.
Agreed. Beernerd is in the correct fight this time, finding those D machines. And so basically, if you haven't seen this grind before, this Searcher, every time you bonk it, it's going to summon a D machine if there's no other enemies on the battlefield. And then this D machine is just going to be using this percentage-based fire attack that we mentioned before. It is susceptible to weak, as you see right here. Tell is using weak. That'll bring it down to single digits. So anyone can just, here you see Cecil slash it down. You then throw a life potion on it, That'll revive it with 0 HP, so you get 2 kills there. And this is just a really efficient way to get a lot of experience in one fight.
Agreed. These are some very, very quick ways to get your characters a lot of experience. Without sirens, this is definitely probably the premier way to do this, though you do kind of have the requirement of needing either a Tella or a Fusoya with wheat, which we theoretically will have both. Well, we theoretically have access to both. Tella has weak already, so that's definitely something that helps him more than anything. And Beernerd just very efficiently grinding through this fight, while Dusty is just coming back to the Earth and not going and taking a D-Machine fight. He is choosing to just do other stuff, it seems. I wonder if he's going to be clearing those early bosses.
That's an option, especially since he's got Fusoya. He might be waiting until Fu learns weak and then can possibly get another character involved in this D-Machine grind. As we see him heading towards Dwarf Castle, this is a logical move to get another character check.
It also goes and gives 2 boss checks, which with the Soya with those spells, I can see being pretty interested in wanting to get those checks out of the way.
Yeah, a couple boss checks here. If he finds that that Bahamut, he's in pretty good shape. We still have that Earth Crystal looming because we do have to complete Zod, but in general, there are fewer key item locations than there are boss locations. So key item checks are usually considered a bit easier than boss checks if you're going hunting.
Very much so, and if you can do both hunts at the same time, I can definitely see that being attractive. And I'm guessing Dusty thinks, I've got a Fusoya, I can go and clear a whole bunch of, well, everything. Let me go and start doing that and see if I can go and find my last 2 objectives and get that taken care of. Especially since that Tower of Zot. There's another thing about T-Pro, and that's the Earth Treasury is weighted to be extra powerful and have some very nice loot in there.
Without a doubt, that super treasury, the big treasure room that's locked with the Earth Crystal, is huge in these flag sets. One of the best treasure troves, period, in Free Enterprise.
Oh yeah, you're always dying to go and find something that valuable in there. As Tella is dying for the cause of this fight.
And D-Machines are dying by the dozen.
Does it matter if they're machines, though? Do they really have a life and a soul?
As somebody who watched the Star Trek The Next Generation episode Measure of a Man, I have to say yes.
Then here's my next question. Do D-Machines dream of electric weak?
Well, possibly. We'll just give them the regular version here from Tella.
And Tella is just going and really chewing through all of these. Ooh, throwing the wrong potion. Oh, no, getting the life potion off just in time. Definitely needs to heal his party and get some ethers out. Throwing an ether 2 on Tella. We'll see if anything else comes out as... Yeah, there goes another... Okay, he's waiting for his... Yeah. So, foible of Free Enterprise, you need to wait a tick for things to update after you throw a potion. And that's what was going on with Tella. You threw an ether 2. He got into the menu before that numbers finished animated, so it's like, oh, you have 15 mana. Go back on the menu, wait a minute. Oh, you have all of your mana.
There's a question in the chat from Bacon Pie asking, why is Sid taking so much damage from the D-Machine? And this is something that we mentioned. Percentage damage is what the flame attack does, but it's also a fire elemental attack. So if Sid is wearing a piece of armor that gives him weakness to fire, like the ice and fire armor give you protection from one and weakness to the other. So if he's wearing the wrong kind, he's going to take more damage from that flame. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing that. That's one of the reasons why stuff like Dragoon armor is considered so much more valuable, just because it's just so much more resistant to other elements.
Agreed. That, yeah, the weaknesses in a way that almost makes logical sense if you think about it. Fire armor makes you weak to fire because it's armor of fire, so you're already hot. Ice armor makes you weak to ice because you're already cold. I disagree with the logic.
I think it's weird to think about it because you'd think fire armor is good against fire because that's what it's called. But I think they just tried to make it consistent since the ice armor is, or the ice brand is good against fire. Then you'd want the ice armor to also be with that. I don't know.
Yeah. And Dusty's big prize from there is the package and an edge. So you could go and have Bahamut hiding behind package, but I don't know if Dusty's going to want to go and gamble on that, since he already spent the time on that. But he is going back and clearing out some bosses here. It looks like he's going back to this Kanaizo, who's sitting in his cave waiting to go and be given something.
So it looks like what Dusty ditched Sid.
Yes.
Instead of once it looks like he just wants to leave Tella as his agility anchor, I guess.
Yeah, and I can wholly endorse ditching Sid over Tella, because Sid cannot cast Berserk. Tella can cast Berserk and be a fantastic anchor.
Well, we've got a curse string. I think Sid's would be a fine anchor. His agility isn't very good either, and he can be a useful chemist in the final fight. It's an interesting choice when you've got access to Rosa and Fu, who can also use Berserk with both of them. So I don't know. It's an interesting choice. That's probably something that I'll bring up with Dusty if we get a chance to talk to him afterwards, because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It's definitely one of those checks that one of those things that causes a lot of division. But we see that Beernerd has finished and found the Ogopogo at the element spot and said, I'm not checking CPU spot for Bahamut at this point, so we're just going to go somewhere else now.
So now I guess the main hope is that the Bahamut is gated behind that Ogopogo, right?
Oh yeah, 100%, because that Ogopogo is going to be real rude. And there is Beernerd going to Dwarf Castle. Is going to find Edge there, and we're going to see if he wants to take them, because there is still a fair amount to do in this seed, but Beernerd has already done his grind. And meanwhile, Dustygriff is going in and taking the play to Sealed Cave.
Right, gonna check the boss down here, check the key item down here. Can reset out if neither of it is good, but this is just one thing to get through. So you want to at least get the knowledge of at this point.
Yeah.
Another question from Bacon Pie in the chat. Beernerd is completely Z ready at this point, right? I would imagine so. He's got a very high level Cecil, very high level Rosa. Sid's got a lot of HP. He can cast any spell from Fusia. He probably wants to complete Fusia's power up, complete enough bosses in order to get him full powered, and then I'd say he's ready. So no more grinds really needed, but probably a few bosses. Looks like he's about 5 bosses away from being full powered.
Yeah, and at worst, that Cecil and Rosa are both at levels where they can go and take on Zeromes, just the two of them. Though it might be a bit of an ugly fight. Speaking of ugly fights, that's an ugly look for that party after that glare comes out and wipes out everyone but the incredibly high level Cecil and the incredibly high level Rosa.
Yeah, that glare from the second part of the Elements fight is no joke. And now has to deal with the HP of Mom Bomb in this spot. Now, the question is, does he take Edge?
He thinks hard and chooses not to, and does take Edge's equipment, which Edge comes with some nice stuff. You like to go and take those bandanas and black belts.
Yeah,
meanwhile, Dusty...
couple really good pieces of equipment. Another Rubicon fight here, but Dusty seeing the spoon as the key item and Rubicon as the boss, no need to fight that. That would actually be a very scary Rubicon right there as well.
Yeah, that Rubicon is not one you want to go and rub up against.
Very high magic power in that spot, and the counter fire 2s will be very nasty. And the glare would also be very nasty, but glare is always nasty.
Yeah, and Dusty is now choosing to go to the Giant. I wonder if he's going to check the boss there, or if he's going to do his own grind now.
I imagine it's probably for the grind. He had done a few bosses. He's got his Fu a bit more powered now, so I think he's probably ready to go ahead and do the D-Machine grind.
Definitely an interesting choice. That will go and give Beernerd some time to go and clear out some more of the spots that Dusty has already checked, though. Beernerd, unless I'm mistaken, he's checking Dwarf Castle now. Dusty cleared the 2 boss fights on the overworld and checked Luca, and that's the main advantage Dusty had over Beernerd at this point, unless I'm mistaken.
Well, and the fact that he found the Alt Gauntlet.
Right, excuse me. That is a huge thing for Beernerd. However long it takes for him to go to that very awkward out-of-the-way spot, which has a character that is a duplicate Tella, but he doesn't really have an incentive to go and check more characters because he found Edge and didn't take him already. Why would he go out of his way for more characters?
That's the thing about doing a grind early. Like, there's a lot of reasons that Edge is going to be better than either a Sid or a Tella in your party, but if you've already committed to a grind, you don't want to have to take that much time to do another one. Looks like Dusty's going to be checking the boss here first. We'll see if he decides to do a grind afterwards. He's definitely not going to fight Ogopogo at this time.
Oh, no, he's not even going and seeing which lunar boss is, just deciding, yeah, I'm not doing this fight, whatever it is. So let's go. Turning on encounters, getting himself set up, putting Fusoya in the middle instead of Tella. So looks like he's deciding to lean on Fu for a week. I imagine that's something he was looking for with his little boss grind there, to go and see if he could get weak on Fusoya.
I recognize that pattern of walking from Dusty. That's the same one that I do for looking for my D machine. So yeah, here he is. Searcher Beamer fight. Looks like he's not running, so this might be the fight right here. So
that's definitely lucky for him, because that is a much faster time than it took Beernerd to go and get his fight.
He also already has Quake on Fu, so that's going to help get rid of these Beamers faster as well. Meanwhile, Beernerd is still following the trail of Dusty. Going down and going to see that Rubicated Spoon and probably going to reset.
Yeah, though, after this fight, it's going to go and be interesting to see where Beernerd goes, because unless he goes down the hook path, it's new territory for us.
Right. He could go at... We've got the Keyless Towers available. We have the bosses down at the King and Queen of Feymarch are available, and then there's the whole moon. And those are kind of the options that he's got at this point.
Yeah, and it's pretty hard to go and say, ooh, Beernerd not even going and checking the boss there. Don't know if he's going to go back and recheck it because he realizes yes, he's going back and rechecking.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate. Like, that's when if you're so used to playing this game before objectives, it's just you check the item and that's it. And Demas has already been found. That's usually the one that you're looking for, and so it's just like instinctual to just reset after seeing that. But it's like, no, I need to see, is this Alt Gauntlet? Is this Bahamut? We know, of course, that it's not either, but of course Beernerd doesn't. Yeah,
Beernerd needs to go and see what he's looking for, because that's a pretty big thing to find. And yep, not required in the slightest. You can leave. Sure, the spoon's nice with an net. All right, Beernerd didn't even take Edge. So yes, this is, where does Beernerd go now?
Interesting play by Dusty here. He had accidentally cast a weak on the Searcher before completing his grind, so he just cast a Cure 4 from Tella onto the Searcher so that you can still bonk him and summon D machines. Heads up play there by Dusty after making a misclick there.
Yeah, that is a very big heads up play, because the facts about Cure, the reason why I use Cure 4 over any other Cure spell on his Searcher is because Searchers have incredibly high magic defense, and magic defense applies against your healing. It doesn't work on your team because your team never applies magic defense against anything you cast. So that works in your favor sometimes, and also may work in your favor other times when you're trying to hurt your team.
And Cure 4, whenever it's single targeted, will always restore to full.
Thank you for bringing up the important detail that I entirely forgot because I sidetracked myself.
It's all good. And it looks like it is the moon. I think this is kind of the most predictable place that Beernerd would go, because there's just like a high density of both key item checks and boss checks, which is what he needs. So it makes a lot of sense that he's going to go here instead of going off for that one-off or two-off boss check that is Evelyn, or the one boss and one key item that is Keyless Tower. So this makes a lot of sense. Unfortunately, This is just going to be more time before he eventually goes and checks that King Queen Evelyn spot where we know the Alt Gauntlet hides.
Agreed. This is definitely the high percentage play. Beernerd has been very diligent about going and generally making good plays. He got his grind out early. He got it done nice and efficiently. He got his Cecil and Rosa up to incredibly high levels. And he's going to be checking key item spots. One of the things that we're likely to find are better weapons for Cecil than a defense sword, which it's not a bad weapon. It's just not as completely broken overpowered as Excalibur and Crystal Sword are.
Right, and but even if he doesn't find it, the defense sword is perfectly capable to complete this seed.
Oh yeah, the defense sword. Again, the defense sword just isn't completely and utterly overpowered compared to Cecil's other weapons. It's Kane's best weapon up until level 60 or something because of its accuracy.
All right, so we're seeing the vanilla Lunar D's spot, and we see Ashura in this location.
Did we find a rune axe?
I don't recall seeing a rune axe. We might have charm or mute arrows somewhere. Not a surprise we're going to see wall being cast on Ashura, but we would like to have a mute dagger, a mute arrow, charm arrow, elven bow, rune axe. All of those give 4 times damage on Ashura. And this is a very high HP spot.
Yeah, it looks like opting just to go in Berserk Cecil and go from there because it's going to take a bit, but that wall is probably going to last a good long time. And it's a very, very important thing because if Ashura goes and gets a Cure 4 off, well, as we discussed, Cure 4 is a full heal if you go and target yourself, so that can go and really go and mess things up. Though Cecil is doing good damage, he's going to be getting through this pretty quickly, though I do see decent damage coming out on Beernerd's team.
Yeah, the counterattacks at this spot are going to be pretty strong, which is you're probably not going to be seeing a lot of attacks come out from anyone other than Cecil, because the damage isn't worth the counterattacks from a lot of the other characters.
Makes sense. And Dusty did just finish his grind and has got his Rosa up to at least Cure 4, I believe. I didn't see White coming out of there for level 47 close to it, but not quite there yet.
Yeah, I think it was just Life 2 and Cure 4, no White. Level 47, you say, yeah.
Yeah, not in the 60s like Beernerd's Cecil and Rosa are, but hard to go and say those levels are anything to scoff at.
Right, and that's one of those things where it's like Dusty, I know, is very familiar with the game and probably knew exactly how many D machines he needs to find, and knows that he's still going to have to fight bosses after that. So there's going to be opportunities for Rosa to get the experience to get to that point where she learns White, even if he even cares about it. I mean, she's got other things to do than White most of the time. Whereas Beernerd might not be as familiar with exactly the number of D machines he needs, and figures, better safe than sorry. I'm just going to kill a lot of these dragons and get to an absurdly high level. And I think that's a valid strategy, especially when you're a little bit newer to this free enterprise situation.
Yeah, Dusty has been around since the first highway to the Zima Zone, which is the first big open tournament from here, so I can definitely respect going and not knowing all of the ins and outs, because there's a lot of ins and outs to go and have in this game to go and learn and see. As we see that Beernerd finding just the pass and the sand ruby behind Ashura, which not bad. Pass is a free way to see after you go and complete that Tower of Zot, which if it's here, you're going to go and need to go back to the Earth and complete it anyways.
Yeah, the pass is something that's always nice to have as an option.
Meanwhile, we do see that Dusty is just chewing through this Ogopogo fight, grinding through it, has Cecil and Edge berserked, while Fasoya and Rosa are just going and throwing out healing as needed. Not a lot interesting going on for Dusty, but he is well on his way of getting through this fight, it looks like, though it is going to take him a bit. This spot has about 60,000 HP, and he's doing about 4,000 HP each round.
It'll take a while, but it looks like it's safe enough, considering his team. This is an interesting thing, though. Clearly, it looks like Dusty is making the play to check the boss here and in the CPU spot. Now, if this boss is not Bahamut at the CPU spot, then that's going to be all this time that Dusty is taking through the Ogopogo fight is an opportunity for Beernerd to catch up based on the gamble that Dusty made earlier and finding that alt Gauntlet.
Agreed. This is the CPU spot's pretty out of the way, so there's a lot of time to lose, and he still needs to find that Earth Crystal, which the moon is a right place to find it, as Beernerd is going to go and be scouring that very efficiently, I think.
And there is no key item check behind anything in the giant, so he's not going to be finding the Earth Crystal up here.
Yeah, no. Rosa goes down in this fight. Oh, Ogopogo is down, though, so no terrible loss. Rosa's already at good levels for Zeromus, and just getting through this fight was what matters more, I think.
I agree. It's not something to really be upset by. It would have been nice.
Meanwhile,
we see the Adamant.
Well, if this was Forge the Crystal and Highway to the Zima Zone, it would be a fantastic find. Here, it's a lot less helpful.
Although, if the Legend Sword is found, that'll be an Excalibur, which is a big upgrade, and access to that Cocal Shop, which might have some even better equipment available as well.
Yeah, or it could sell Bacchus Wines, which would be really helpful. Or it could also sell Avenger Swords, which would be really helpful. And Dusty committing to the Ogopogo fight and finding Evil Wall at CPU. Glad we don't have to actually fight this, and this isn't real giant percent, but that was a lot of time spent on a fight that pretty much just gave 100,000 experience to his party.
And not even to all of his party.
Yeah, Rosa missing out on that stings a bit, I think.
Well, if some of these fights were required, there could have been some really challenging. That Rubicant down in the sealed cave is a very nasty spot for Rubicant. The Evil Wall at CPU is a very nasty spot for Evil Wall. So we had some really challenging things that just weren't required this time. Meanwhile, we get Dr. Luge in the Ogopogo spot. This is a very nasty spot in general, but Dr. Luge is one of the... there's not a whole lot of places where he's super scary. We'll just put it like that.
His second form, Laser, can do interesting amounts of damage because it is based on Dr. Luge's HP, but his HP gets split so much, I agree. It's hard to go and really keep him as a serious threat.
And especially since the Laser is just single target, and I think it's like every third or fourth action that he does that. You can mitigate that.
Yeah, it's definitely a manageable fight. And here Dusty is going to the moon. Comment from chat, Dusty probably feels in trouble now. I disagree because, again, he found that alt Gauntlet at the King Queen Evelyn spot. That is a terrible spot to check.
Yeah, if you make a gamble like that and find one of your objectives, one of your boss objectives right there, you've got to be feeling really good about yourself, I think. I think Dusty's probably just like, okay, well, it wasn't here, so let me go to the next best place to check, and that's the moon.
He is going to Cape Bahamut first, which, if he's checking for Bahamut, that'll definitely help him, though he still does need to find that Earth Crystal, which the Lunar Subterranean does have all the checks. We know that the first 3 down there aren't the best rewards for what you want, but the pass is definitely a good consolation prize. And we just find Leviathan here, and Dusty's going straight into the fight.
But I think it's clear from what we've seen from Dusty's play in this seed that he's willing to go to the low percentage places. He's been doing that this entire seed. So he's just making these gambles, thinking like, I'm playing against Beernerd, and basically thinking that Beernerd's going to be going a little bit more conservative, straightforward, efficient plays, which is what he's been doing. So Dusty's differentiating himself by going for these a little bit more out of the way checks, and it paid off for him in the Alt Gauntlet. It backfired on him in the Ogopogo fight, But he's going through that same game plan by going to Cape Bahamut before the lunar subterranean.
I actually wonder if it's the opposite, to be entirely honest, where Dusty is thinking, what way... I know my game. I feel like I'm really good and efficient. What ways do I lose? Well, if there's stuff in these locations and I don't check what my opponent does, I am definitely going to go and lose to that. So let me go and head that off as much as I can and just rely on being very efficient in getting through a lot of these checks faster.
That's a good point. That could be part of it too. So in either case, it's really interesting to see this. Like the first part of the seed, like the first 45 minutes or so, the runners were going very similar things despite having a really open seed like that early magma key. But once we got to this point where we found the hook, that's where we really saw the big divergence.
Yeah, and we find Justice Self-Summon in Cape Bahamut, so none of these checks so far, as we saw a Drain Spear from the Masamune altar, really paying out.
And Beernerd is getting close to done with the lunar subterranean. He's just got this Vanilla Wyvern check and the Pale Dim spot left. So he's been doing a very good job of clearing out the lunar subterranean throughout all of this. And also being really efficient. When he saw it was the Drain Spear, instead of walking out, he just took a reset, losing out on that experience, but he's already done it. But look what he found here.
There is objective number 2, Bahamut. If Bahamut has the Earth Crystal, that is definitely a huge advantage for Beernerd, as he will only need to go and find bosses, and he'll be able to go and do that Power of Zot check without too much trouble, as it's required anyways. It's 2 bosses, why not? And you can go and loot all the stuff.
The unfortunate thing is Dusty is heading into the lunar subterranean, so it doesn't think... it seems very unlikely that Dusty is going to end up fading this vanilla crystal sword location.
Yeah, we'll see which way Dusty takes. Is he going to go to the bottom? No, Dusty... Okay. I thought for a second Dusty was going to go top down, but he just likes walking the way I don't.
I always make the less efficient walk in the second to last floor of the sealed cave, so I know how that goes. Looks like he's going for a more traditional bottom up, which is what we saw from Beernerd. There's just a little bit more concentration of key items and bosses down at the bottom of the lunar subterranean than from the top, so not a surprise. But we see Beernerd gets past that Bahamut, gets the pan, so that does open up 2 more key item checks on the blue planet. We'll see if he decides to head down there first, or if he is still going to do that Pale Dim spot before leaving the moon.
Yeah, leaving the moon early is a bit of a gamble, because yes, you'll check the 2 spots with the pan, but you might still need to go and get that Earth Crystal. And if you get a chain, which we have 3 different chains still open to find, the Twin Harp, the Baron Key, and the Tower Key could all lead to the Earth Crystal. You'd have to go and commit to clearing those and then come back to the moon, so I can definitely understand this play of just going back to the Pale Dim spot and going and seeing if you can get your key item there.
And Dusty seems to have some sort of compass, because he is going right to this Bahamut that we saw Beernerd hit. Now, this is not necessarily... With that Earth Crystal there still is something for Beernerd to hold on to. But this is just... Like, for Beernerd to save some time, we're going to have to hope that Dusty still does the rest of the lunar subterranean looking for that Earth Crystal, or the pan not to leave there.
Agreed, and we find Valvalis in the Pale Dim spot. Not exactly what you want to find, though. Cecil does have enough levels to get through her spin. She's one of the ruder bosses in a team that likes to go and throw out spells, as in most locations when she's spinning, she's immune to magic unless Kain jumps and breaks her spin, which we have not seen Kain anywhere.
Luckily, we've got a couple of characters who like being berserked and hitting enemies, and that's going to work just fine here against Valvalis. It's not going to be the fastest fight in the world, but it's not going to be the slowest either.
Yeah, it's definitely going to get through it. The most time-consuming part, I imagine, is going to be seeing these weak casts coming out. Though you'll probably want to throw some blinks up, as Valvalis only does 3 things. Weak and Ray as a combined action, and then casting, and then punching your party when she's spinning as a tornado.
Got a couple of questions asking about where was Gauntlet. The alt Gauntlet was in the King Queen Evelyn spot, and this was not a hook seed. Dusty was able to find it by just exploring. Got in there with a very low level party and did not save before getting in there, and was able to manage it just barely. A couple green dragons gave him some tough times, but he threw enough tier 2 potions to get through it. Really well played, and gave him a huge advantage in this seed. So we're hoping that Beernerd can find something that's going to give him an edge to kind of even it out a little bit. Dusty is going to be checking that pan right away.
Dusty knows he only needs key items, so maybe he's thinking I need to go and just make my key item checks as fast as possible. But I agree, this is a bit of a gamble. Not going and hitting the lower part of this lunar subterranean is a pretty substantial gamble.
I think, yeah, as Groundflyer said in the chat, he's saved on the moon, so if this ends up being absolutely nothing, but something was just found on Beernerd's screen. That's the Earth Crystal.
If these are rabbit holes, Dusty's going to be going on a bit of a goose chase, and Beernerd is going to go and be... Beernerd's done a lot of checks. He's going to do Zot, and then he's not going to have many places left to look for bosses.
Right. He hasn't checked Cave Bahamut yet, but he'll see that it's not alt Gauntlet there, so he won't be fooled. Top of Tower is scary. I think that's going to be the one place where he might get baited before going down to Lower Babel.
Yeah, that's something where, I mean, Beernerd might get sucked in going looking for more key items because he doesn't have the Baron key, and alt Gauntlet could be behind that. But
yeah, that's
Beernerd
true.
Does his open checks, he's going to be in good shape because he's going to find that alt Gauntlet at hook. And Beernerd is just noping out. I think Beernerd is going to go and do all of his open checks while Dustygriff is following this pan and seeing what it gives, which it gave him a glass hat from the Sylphs. If it's nothing here, he's going to go and be looking to find... he's going to go back to that moon, I expect, but we know where Dusty needs to go. Dusty needs to go to the Peldim, the Murasame altar, while Beernerd needs to go to the King Queen Evelyn spot, and there's a lot fewer places for Beernerd to go and find bosses that he hasn't fought.
A question from the chat, Taventano asking, what is this gauntlet thing that keep talking about? Well, there's two gauntlets. One is the event that we're actually running right now, which is a 1v1 tournament called the Fabul Gauntlet. There's also one of the bosses that's in Free Enterprise is the Fabul Gauntlet. Normally in the vanilla game, you fight them when defending Fabul from Galvez's assault, and it's just a bunch of the same fights over and over again. The alternative gauntlet that we've got in this version is whenever you find it, you're going to be fighting 5 random encounters, or 5 encounters that are pulled from the area where it is. So since we found it in the King Queen Evelyn spot in the Upper Tower of Babel, we saw 5 battles that you would find in the Upper Tower.
Very much so, and we see that Dustygriff got a twin harp from Sheila 2 and is chasing that, so we'll be getting music from Dustygriff's screen. Unfortunately, we know this is not going to lead to what he needs, while Beernerd is going straight up Tower of Zot to go and check those 2 bosses there, and is then going to be on Earth, on a blue planet, with, I don't know how many places he has left to check. He can go and just check the top of Tower and that hook path, and as soon as he checks that hook path, he finds the alt Gauntlet and is in go mode.
Unless this ends up being either the Baron key or the Tower key, that would open up a couple more bosses for him as well.
Very true. That could go and send Beernerd on his own little bit of a rabbit hole. As we're in no mode, we know what the runners have to do. Dusty needs to go to the Murasame altar and get that Earth Crystal. Beernerd needs to go to the hook path and defeat King Queen Evelyn, or the King Queen Evelyn spot.
Girl Named Captain asks, best outcome for Beernerd is that this gives no key items. I think the best outcome for Beernerd is that all of these rabbit holes are in the same chain that Dustygriff is currently in.
I mean, honestly, if this just gives something like an Excalibur or a Crystal Sword, that's amazing for Beernerd as well, because what spots hasn't Beernerd checked? He's seen the Fame Arch bosses, he's seen everything on the moon, He's seen he hasn't seen Top of Tower, but he's done dwarf casting. There's very little left for him to go and find outside of a key item.
But now it's time for us to shut up for a little bit because we all want to hear what DJ Spoony B has for all of us today.
And we get the Q's March theme from Final Fantasy IX. A very nice theme.
Yeah, for anybody who likes eating frogs, we've got some, possibly some lunar frogs. This could be very appropriate. I don't think we'll need to go that far in this fight, but one can dream.
No, and if we had J-Spills on, you could do something rather amusing by casting Shell on both the D-Lunars and then hitting them, which will make their wall miss. And oh dear, that wall came out. Rosa's hard casting a white straight onto that D-Lunar, so that's going to bounce off and hit someone. It's going to be a little ugly, I think.
Well, we saw Mylon and friends in the first spot in the Tower of Zot. The second one is the Dark Imps. So we got some easy fights, just dupe characters up there. I don't think anybody's thinking about changing characters at this point. The important thing is going to be the key item check.
Agreed. Though I am impressed that we have not seen our 7th character. We have 3 checks left, I believe. The package, the Baron Key, and... well, there's a Charm Rod from Twin Harp, so Dusty knows he doesn't need that. He's back on the moon, and it's going to be clearing that, but it's a race between Dusty getting to the Murasame altar, coming back to the Earth, and then going and clearing this Tower of Zot, and Beernerd going, finding the Elk Gauntlet, and clearing it.
If that didn't lead to a key item, then I'm afraid that this probably will be for Beernerd.
There is still the 2 bosses in Feymarch. So they could have our remaining 2 key items, or it could be both behind Baron. But I didn't get to see it, but it looks like it was a ninja shirt. And Beernerd is heading to Cave Evelyn.
Heading to Evelyn, this is huge. This could be the comeback that just really worked. This is huge. This is really huge. Hopefully he doesn't just see the first boss and reset. Hopefully he goes all the way in and commits to it.
Yeah, again, I think he's going to, just because it's either here or Top of Tower, and I'm willing to guess he thinks if it was Top of Tower, someone would have been finished, right?
That's a good point too, yeah.
But we'll see if he goes here, leaves a save, goes back, checks Top of Tower, gets that, and resets back to here. But Dusty's in this Ashura fight. That's going to go and take some time. Beernerd looks to be in the very, very commanding position.
Okay, so he sees the Dark Imp. He hasn't reset yet, so that makes it seem like he is committing to this, which is great. When Dusty made that play and found the Alt Gauntlet there, I thought it was Dusty's race. I didn't think that there would be a comeback. This is amazing to see Beernerd playing there. He really has a chance to win this.
Yeah, Beernerd played consistent. He did a early grind rather than going hunting. Dusty did lose a fair amount of time having to go and stumble his way through that Alt Gauntlet with an extremely low-level party and just being undersupplied, while Beernerd is going to go and just blast through it with Quakes and high-level characters. So this is looking pretty good for Beernerd. The real question is, does Beernerd go and take the Dark Imp fight down there to just try and get out of Zot faster? Does he walk back out and exit?
And as soon as he's completed that fight, he's got the crystal. However way he goes, he's going to be ready to go right to Zeramis after this. He's got the pass too, so he's not going to have to go back to the moon or anything like that. He's good to go.
Yeah, and there's Dusty getting the pass in the Sand Ruby, but he's still going to be going straight into another check. not even saving afterwards, just wants to go and get through these bosses as fast as possible. He's going to go and be chewing through Antlion and then the whatever boss it was at Masamune's spot, because I have completely forgotten that.
That was Dr. Luge. And then, which is not, as much as it's an easy fight, it's not a fast fight. And then after that is probably when he'll go and check that Pale Dim spot, which is where the Earth Crystal is. But Beernerd is in the fight now, and he is really well leveled.
Yeah, Beernerd, the only way Dusty comes back from this, I think, is Beernerd goes and wipes his Aromas once or twice. But with Beernerd's levels, I think it's going to be really hard for him to do so.
Yeah, if he takes, like, even if, like I saw, like, a Big Bang into Medio is merciless, but I think this party could survive that at these levels.
Yes, Cecil can definitely go and survive that. The worst thing would be, like, Big Bang into Nuke into Medio, and Nuke takes out Cecil, and it's just Sid going there, maybe. But it's, this is going to be incredibly hard.
I think one thing is absolutely certain. Both these racers played really well this entire seed. They're, like, from, like, the efficiency that Beernerd has made throughout his decision-making process, to, like, seeing Dusty's play at the Alt Gauntlet at low levels, we saw some really good free enterprise too.
Yeah, there's a lot of great racing going on, and this has been a real race. You should go and follow these runners. They have been going and playing amazingly well. I expect we're only going to see even better things from them later in the tournament. This has been quite the race.
And we are poised. Yeah, go ahead. Give a shout out.
I was going to give a shout out to our support team who is going and bringing this. Dathis, who is on Restream. Excuse me, I can't go in.
Ravlin on tracking.
Ravlin, I'm sorry. I'm bad at names. I'm terribly sorry. Ravlin is tracking, showing us how far everyone is along. Let us keep with track. And Rexrall joining me on commentary. Again, this has been a fantastic race to cast.
Absolutely. And that's Baka Shinobi joining me too. So this has been fun, and we are on the verge of seeing a really big upset if Beernerd completes this here and doesn't have any issues with Zeramis. 29 defeating a 4 seed is huge. It's really exciting to see a newer player like Beernerd making a really big name in this tournament, and if he completes this without any issues, consider his name made.
Oh yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of practice go and get beaten up and broken tonight, as Beernerd has his crystal. Beernerd is walking out of Zot and is going to go, and he's not going to go and launch the Falcon. Instead, he's just going to go and walk out, go to his hovercraft, get to his airship, and go to Zeromus. He is definitely ready.
Really excited to see the end of this. Looks like Dusty is just about to get to the real fight in Luge.
Yeah, that will go and lead him to going up to the top of the lunar subterranean, getting to that Dark Imps fight, going getting the Earth Crystal, and Dark Imps were on top of Za. It was Valvalis at the top of the lunar subterranean. This is both amazing. This is very close. But Beernerd is definitely looking at a very commanding lead.
Now he's to the point where he can cast Exit, and he's going to be just... This is actually really close to Totoria with access to the pass, so...
Yeah, just fly north or south from here, and you're in Toria, so that is... We're about to go and see the final part of this seed, and I believe we have a little question to go and ask at that point in time.
We do. We've got to ask the question, whose butt are we going to kick tonight? Because we are just moments away from butt time.
Indeed, we don't go and bring Zeromus into the normal boss pool because he's, well, a bit too much, a bit too strong, a bit too fast, a bit too complicated, and just a bit too much of everything. But this is a randomizer. We can't leave him plain, so we like to give him a little bit of a makeover. So get your Z flags out in chat as we find out whose butt we're kicking tonight.
Meanwhile, Dustygriff heading right back into the subterranean, going to go right to that pale dim spot, going to find that earth crystal. But he's still 3 bosses away from completing the Tower of Zot, and Beernerd is just entering the final fight right now.
Yeah, Beernerd is 1 boss away from the end of this seed, and he has a lot of levels.
He does. He is quite strong. The only thing is I don't know exactly what the agility situation. He is using Tella as an anchor. Tella has got over 1,000 HP, so he's gained some levels. He probably has that curse string on to mitigate that, though. I don't imagine it being too tough a fight, but that's the only thing that I could think would be a bit of a difficult situation for him in this.
Yeah, if he went and didn't go and level up that, or didn't go and curse ring that Cecil, or Tella, that Tella is not going to go and be relative agility 1. But based on the setup, it looks like we're seeing a relative agility 1 party as Tella goes first, throws the crystal. Cecil is going in, passing his turn, and we're going to be getting ready for what sprite we're seeing tonight. And it seems that Taskbot is here to go and take revenge for those who assaulted its dragon minions.
That is one busy sprite, but it's awesome.
I do believe this was one of the sprites that was in our pool for the GDQ when Free Enterprise was shown off at GDQ one year.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And for the record, behind the Taskbot is in fact the script for Zeromus.
Hashtag shake.
Yep, that shake is actually rather important because you see the next flag set spell power to 32. That's what actually happens when you're going and seeing that shake. It shakes, it goes and sets power for Big Bang, and then if you time it correctly, it nerfs it. Or for the first Big Bang, it doesn't go and do that. It just simply gets nerfed for how you go and take the first one. And Tella survives the first Big Bang.
But Fu is not going to... Oh, Rosa might have the cure. Oh, we see the HP ran out. Not able to cure Tella. Poor old man.
Those HP run out missions is a bit of time lost, but I don't think it's been enough as Dusty found his Earth Crystal and is heading back to the blue planet, but Beernerd's in the Zeromus fight. Dusty needs to go and kill 2 bosses at the Tower of Zot.
Looks like Beernerd using a bit of a hybrid strategy here, getting some physical attacks in with Berserk Cecil, reflecting some spells off of Sid, and having Sid using some chemist strats to keep the casters up. Just a pretty solid strategy overall. If you've got in this sort of party setup, it makes sense that this is what you're doing with it.
Yeah, and there's nerfing Big Bangs, it looks like, going in counter nukes and topping up the casters, so Rosa's staying safe, though I think you'd be pretty... If you didn't go and do that, you'd still be pretty safe with the HP levels you have on Rosa. Rosa has almost 3,000 HP. I don't think there is a single Big Bang that could go and kill Rosa.
Looks like there might have been a mismenu from Sid that Cure 3 did not cure Rosa there, but looks like we've got plenty of time. There's going to be a shake, I think, before the next... Or might be there might be a black hole before the next one, depending on whether or not the next phase of the Zeromus fight is triggered, which looks like it is because we see another shake there.
Yeah, so we've got some good hybrid strats coming out with Rosa and Fusoya reflecting spells off that Sid, though Fusoya is out of MP and is going to need to go and chug an Ether 2 or an Elixir if he has one, but it looks like it's just Ether 2s at this point.
Always the biggest weakness of Fusoya is his MP pool, because you want him to use those really powerful spells that he has, but that MP cost is actually a cost.
Yeah, that's with Palom when he has like 300 or 400 MP. That's a lot of nukes that you're really not looking to run through in single fight, because how many things have like 80,000 hit points.
Yeah, well, welcome to the Z fight.
Indeed. The Zeromus fight cheats a little bit because one thing we mentioned earlier is that he's a bit too complicated. Well, he has 100,000 HP, only he doesn't because he can only have 61,000 HP. What they do is after a certain point, the Zeromus will go and refill their HP back to full after you do 52,000 damage. But here's Meteor. This could be dangerous. There is a Meteor coming out, but it only hits Sid. That means the casters are alive and throw the heal out, and looks like Beernerd is going straight for a direct cast nuke on Zeromus. Cecil is up for a turn, so I think we've got this one in the bag.
Yeah, this is looking very good. We're just waiting for that flash now.
This is, yeah. Cecil still, after taking a nuke to the face, in position to flash. Bang. And there is Beernerd finished in first place with an official time of 1 hour, 33 minutes, and 10 seconds. Congratulations to Beernerd, and I believe we're joined by him now.
Hello, thank you.
How did you feel about that race? What's
It was just nerve-wracking the whole time. I thought after kind of goofing around on the grind and a couple other things, I thought I'd be just miles behind for sure. I feel like I got real lucky to catch back up and somehow win.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble. Your mic seems to be cutting out us sometimes.
I'm sorry, is that a little better? Or?
A little bit, but it seems to have some type of noise or something in it, which is causing it to crack a bit.
Sorry.
Sorry, it's still causing a little bit of difficulty there. You cut in and out a fair bit, and have a bit of a robot voice.
But I definitely want to say big GG's. Beernerd, I think you're probably going to be known as the big bracket buster for this. Big upset over Dusty. Well played overall. I got to just congratulate you on that.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, if I had filled out a bracket, I definitely wouldn't put myself in this position either, although I'm really excited to be moving forward.
Yeah, you played amazingly well this seed. That was definitely a lot of great play. Very good, efficient play. That early grind did pay off very well for you. And out of curiosity, how did you feel about that alt Gauntlet location?
That was just getting lucky, I guess. I was kind of getting nervous. I knew I didn't have a lot of places left to check without digging for more key items through bosses I know weren't the alt Gauntlet, so I just kind of picked the closest one that was a couple of boss checks and went for it, and it kind of paid off.
Well, it was definitely a very solid play, because going for your open checks is definitely better than hunting down a key item that you might need from somewhere that you don't know.
Yeah. I think there was that or like keyless tower check or the top of tower. I didn't have many other places to go. Otherwise, I knew I'd be beating other bosses.
Yeah, that was definitely, we were going counting the spots that you would be getting to, so that was a, again, good heads up play to go and check your open spots rather than going assuming that you need another key item, and just very efficiently clearing all of the seeds, going in a very efficient order on that. With your bracket, you're going to be facing off either the winner of the Dia Zilch match. Do you have a preference for which one you'd like to go and see in your next match?
I've always been really impressed with Dia's racing. Everyone I saw was really great. So I haven't seen the other person, but hopefully either one's going to be a great race.
That sounds incredibly fair. Rex, do you have more questions?
I think I'm pretty good, unless you've got any other final thoughts about this seed that we saw today.
I guess I'd just like to say thanks again. This has been so far a wonderful experience. I'm happy to be moving on, and thanks to everybody working on it.
Thank you for being a racer in it. You put on a fantastic performance, and we're looking forward to seeing more from you, as you definitely took down a big giant today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and looking forward to what you're doing in the next round too. It should be a great race, whoever you're matched up against.
Thank you.
And with that, we see that Dusty is in the Zeromus fight. He has the Big Bang coming out, and he has his Cecil and Edge. It looks like they're getting ready to go and just start reflecting spells and doing a similar hybrid strat. But that was definitely a seed.
That was a crazy race all like throughout. Like, I definitely thought that edge that Dusty had from finding that alt Gauntlet was going to just be enough for him to just take the seed from there. I thought that was going to be enough of a lead, but we saw a couple of rabbit holes and decisions that, like that Ogopogo fight and things like that, just a couple things out there that didn't pay off for Dusty, and that was enough for the efficiency of the routing of Beernerd to catch up and overtake Dusty. It was really, really fun to see how this race ended up.
Yeah, balancing to go and check that pan, clearing Ogopogo, even going to the alt Gauntlet early was a bit of a time sink for Dusty, just because he really wasn't ready to go and take that out. He was a bit surprised, I think, when he saw it there, and then scrambling around for how am I going to go and take care of this. He dealt with it masterfully, but it did go and eat up time for him, which that losing time in those small places definitely ate into a lot of Dusty's advantages there, I think.
And once again, I want to give a shout out to the rest of the Restream team. We got Ravlin on the tracking. We've got Daphis on the Restream tonight, and just big shout outs to the entire Restream team throughout all of Free Enterprise. We're putting on, I think, 5 races today. So there's more Free Enterprise for you after this, but this is just like, if you like Free Enterprise, today's the day for you.
Oh yeah, this is an amazing day for Free Enterprise. There's going to be so much. It will go and get uploaded, and we do have a channel on our Discord for going and tracking the Fabul Gauntlet races. I believe we have a playlist made up for going through all of them. So if you're worried about missing some of them, we do have resources to go and help you find them. And this match was great. I can only imagine how great the other matches were.
There's that, and the races that are still to come, like now that we've seen what Beernerd is able to do, like really looking forward to what he can do the rest of this event and beyond. Like, I think we've got a new Free Enterprise star in the making.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a big debut. Dustygriff was the biggest champion of the World Series of Free Enterprise, and we have a lot of exciting Free Enterprise to see. A lot of us pick some of our knowns, and the new unknowns are coming up and showing that, yeah, they're in brackets for a good reason.
Well, the nasty Big Bang almost took out Fu, but not quite. Looks like we're going to get that Cure 4 up, but the Meteo comes in.
Yeah, that's a bit of an ugly Big Bang. Oh dear, that is a rather ugly Big Bang into Meteo, but it's not enough. The flash goes out. There's the GG. There is the crumble for Zeromus. And Dustygriff finishing with an official time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 54 seconds. And I believe we're joined by Dustygriff as well. Congratulations on your finish, Dustygriff. This is, how did you feel about that alt Gauntlet?
Maybe regretful now. At the time, I was like, you know what? This is probably not the best thing to commit to, but I kind of lucked out and found it early, but it also took forever, which may have just been better to just reset when I saw it and took the intel and went from there. But I mean, it felt good because I was feeling like that was the play that maybe Beernerd would have made. I wasn't sure, obviously, because you never know. But yeah, looking into that, it felt like I was like, oh, that's a little advantage for me, maybe. But then it took so long, I was like, yeah, I don't know if whatever advantage I probably gained, I probably lost just from the length of it. But Yeah, that was interesting seed. It was flip-flopped all over the place a little bit, which, I mean, the routing somewhat worked out, but yeah, it kind of sucked that I didn't top down. If I top down Moon, it would have went a little smoother. Didn't burst on me first, obviously, because I would have got Zot first, and then came back for Bahamut later. But yeah, it was a big toss around for sure.
Yeah, we were definitely. Go ahead, Rex.
Oh, there was one thing that I wanted to just pick your brain about. You had a decision when you did Dwarf Castle, and Edge was presented as the character. You decided to take Edge, and you decided to. And this was, I believe, you already had Fusia in your party at this time.
Yeah.
And you decided to keep Tella and not Sid. Can you walk me through that choice?
Yeah, that was kind of interesting because I that was the one choice I paused on for a second because I did think about it, and I was thinking about what does Sid, because I kind of wanted Edge, but I was kind of thinking what does Sid bring over Tella, and obviously high health and possible damage and whatnot, but Tella can also Zerk and Cure 4 and is also a second source of weak for the D Machine fight. So, and I kind of figured I was going to do that, so I was like, well, that's kind of nice to get that. I don't really need the Sid damage, and I already have the Curse Ring for the automatic decent anchor. So I was like, I'll just keep Tella here because he'll really help out for just kind of backup of those things later on, which he was pretty helpful, especially as another source of Zerk.
Yeah, we definitely saw you going making good use of your mages for that seed, and just that Ogopogo fight did seem to take also steal some time from you. How did you feel when you saw just Evil Wall behind that?
It felt okay. I mean, at the end of the day, I committed to the first fight. It took a little bit of time, but also I was getting, I think, something like 4,000 to 5,000 damage around, which means Ogo would have 65,000 health there. So, something around 15 rounds or 13 to 15 rounds sort of thing. So I didn't feel too bad because I knew it was like I'd see a couple waves. I think that fight maybe took 2 to 3 minutes, but at the end of the day, cumulative things I suppose add up. But yeah, it sucks a little bit when that play doesn't work out. But also I needed a tiny bit more experience. I think I actually didn't get white on Rosa until I did Bahamut spot on the moon. So that Ogo experience. Actually, I think Rosa might have been dead at the end of the Ogo fight, so she actually didn't get that experience. But I that was part of the reason why I was like, I'll commit to this to see the second boss after. So it didn't pay off as much because she didn't get white, but white isn't the biggest deal breaker either in terms of speed on the moon. But yeah, it would have felt a lot better had I saw Bahamut there, obviously. But yeah, that's the way it goes.
Yeah, that was still a very well-run race. You were both well under 2 hours, so that is effectively full clearing the seed, except for the Feymarch bosses. Both of you did go and fade those, and I can't blame you after seeing that neither of them were required bosses and you had key items you could find elsewhere.
Yeah, it's funny, and when I went, I was thinking about this, and this isn't a play I really do, but it was kind of a play that I thought might be somewhat smart. In terms of when I got Pan on Moon, I was really tempted to just clear the Feymarch bosses at the same time because I was so powerful. They both would have taken, Calbretta would have been less than a minute, and Odin may have taken a minute to 2 minutes. So they would have been faster than a Moon spots at that point. But I was like, since I faded them early, I was like, I don't really want to commit to them at this point. I'd rather just clear up the Pan stuff and go back to the Moon. But I was always curious to do that. I'm glad I didn't because it would have been an extra however many minutes and possibly led me down more rabbit holes that I would have felt inclined to finish. But yeah.
Well, in the end, unfortunately, it looks like you're eliminated from this bracket round. But congratulations on making it into brackets, making it to the 4th seed. Well done there. So, do you have any final thoughts about this event as from your perspective?
I think it's been probably the funnest one so far and the funnest to watch. I'm super glad that it's been so hype, and I'm very, very thankful to everyone who's done so much work on the restream side to get so many people showcased this time around. It's been super amazing, and I can't wait to see the rest of the brackets. I've said this already in other streams, but I think as this brackets goes on and we get to the best of 3, we're going to see some of the best free enterprise yet, I think.
Absolutely, and really looking forward to seeing what your opponent Beernerd does in the rounds to come as well. GG's again, Dusty, and thanks for joining us and letting us watch you tonight.
Thanks, folks, and GG's to Beernerd as well.
Yes, GG's, and looking forward to seeing what our next bracket rounds are going to have, as Beernerd is definitely going to be one to watch.
Yeah, and like if you hadn't seen him run before, now you're seeing him now. You know what he brings to the table, and that's just like a really good efficiency throughout the routing. Really well played there. So with that, that's going to be about it for us here. But don't fear, there is more free enterprise. We're going to go ahead and send everybody over to RPG Limit Break for another race tonight.
Get ready for another exciting match, because these bracket matches don't go. I have not seen a quiet or dull one. Yeah, there's always a lot of hot, exciting action here. So if you want more free enterprise, you're going to get it.
And thanks everybody for watching.
Have a great evening.